You got a choice between the Audi RS Q8 and the Lamborghini Urus. Which one would you pick? If it were between for example, the Huracan and the Audi R8, I would definitely go for the Huracan because it's a Lamborghini and it is a mid-engine sports car. These are SUVs, so it doesn't matter as much to me, and specifically now that we have a completely refreshed RS Q8 for 2025. So we're going to have a look at this design from a front, side, and rear, and of course the interior. Have a look at what's new. I actually really like the updates that they did here. I really like the lower section of Audis these days that they introduced with the RS6 GT. They're starting to put that into their high-performance production cars as well. So we're gonna have a look at the front, side, rear, interior. But before we do that, we're gonna compare it to the old one, obviously. Let's have a look at some of the spec and tech of this beast of an SUV from this article from Car and Driver. I'm gonna link it down in the description. 2025 Audi RS Q8 performance with 631 horsepower encroaches on the Lamborghini Urus. They can't make it more powerful than the Lamborghini. That just wouldn't work in the family. There would be arguments around the dinner table and so on, because a Lamborghini is always supposed to be the top dog in this segment, and they're all within the same family. So you get 40 extra ponies now. The new top spec RS Q8 has standard carbon ceramic brakes and optional 23-inch forged wheels. And I love these wheels on this car. It just looks great, and I would definitely go for the forged wheels. It saves a lot of weight as well. 631 horsepower compared to the non-hybrid Lamborghini Urus. 657, so it's very, very close, but you save a lot of money buying the Audi in this case. So I would probably go, honestly, with the RS Q8 performance here. Still obviously comes standard with quattro all-wheel drive, an 8-speed automatic transmission, and a twin turbocharged 4-liter V8. The engine continues to make 591 horsepower and 590 pound-feet of torque in the regular, if you can call it regular, RS Q8. However, the performance model, as I said, gets 631 horsepower and 627 pound-feet of torque. You get a new exhaust system that Audi says is louder, lighter, and reduces back pressure, and this is helping to boost the power for the performance model. 0 to 60 is done in 3.5 seconds, which is very, very conservative, because Car and Driver says here, last RS Q8 they tested before this update did it in 3.2 seconds. So this, they say, wouldn't be surprised to see a sub 3-second run for this huge, beastly big SUV. It's just incredible the times we live in when it comes to power in cars these days. 4-wheel steering is standard as well. Audi claims that the bigger rollers, the wheels, the 23-inch wheels, reduce unsprung mass by 44 pounds total, and that is a lot of weight on the wheel. So that is definitely one of the reasons why I would go for the 23-inch over the standard 22-inch for the performance model. You have a revised front end, and this is what I love. The lower section of the front end specifically, when I have a look at the changes, I feel like they cleaned it up and it became more classic Audi intakes. They are a lot bigger these days, obviously, but for example, the B4 S4 and the B5 RS4 as well, they had those very clean lower sections, and I think this is a good modernization of those features. So the revised front end that now features a new bumper with more prominent air intakes. The grille gets a new mesh design that looks more porous than before, and each honeycomb cell takes on a 3-dimensional shape. And the bezel, the framing for the grille, is also a lot thicker now in the 2025 model year. Matrix LED headlights found on the recently refreshed Audi Q8 is now integrated in the RS Q8 as well. The daytime run lights also have 5 different signatures to choose from. This seems to be a thing for Audi these days, so just you can modify and sort of give the car a specific expression in the front end with the daytime run lights. 5 different settings here, and one of them resembles a checkered flag. I think that's pretty fun. I mean, you have the light settings in the front end, all these LEDs. Why not have them be customizable just a little bit? You still have the key identity for the brand intact. Now, just like the regular RS Q8, the performance model has a 12.3-inch digital gauge cluster, and Audi calls this the virtual cockpit. Only difference is for the performance model is it adds an exclusive shift light indicator when in manual mode. And I really like Audi's interiors, specifically when we have the gauge cluster integrated like this. And it's also very, very cool, nice looking graphics in there. There is just the piano black that I don't like, but you can get the RSQ8 performance with a lot of carbon fiber. That is also 100% something I would pick for the interior and not have this gloss black all over the place. Much rather have some matte carbon fiber. Now, Audi has only revealed the details about the European version, and that is the one we're going to have a look at here, but of course the US version is going to look exactly the same like this. We don't have a pricing yet, but the outgoing 2024 RSQ8 started at $127,000. With that said, let's check out here what is new with the RSQ8s. We have the old one, or the current 2024 one, up top. We have the new one at the bottom. And as you can see, this lower section, this is what I want to bring your attention to. The lower section right here. I'm not sure which color I should pick here, because we have a green car up top, and we have a red car at the bottom. So let's make it light blue. That seems to work fine. So look at this. If we cut the grille right here, have a look at this lower section. It looks pretty complex on the current one with all these wings and fins that goes in here. It's still a rather beautiful design. I don't mind this design at all. I think it works nicely. I would like to see some sort of connection with this wing though into the rest of the body. It feels like it's very abruptly cut off right there into this carbon fiber piece. But one thing I do love about this design is that we have a piece at the bottom that is body colored. And this is what I want to see on most cars these days, because I want to have a foundation for the front end graphics to rest upon that is part of the rest of the body. And one way to do that is to just have a splash of color at the lower section of the front end. Something that, as you can see, we don't have in the 2025 model year. But even if we don't have that, I do still think this looks so much better than the very complex looking outgoing model. You can see the headlights are also brand new in this case in the 2024. I don't think they were customizable. You just got them with these strips right here, LED bars. And you can see the grille, the bevel, the framing for the grille is also now a lot thicker. They just added some beefiness to this framing. A big beautiful chamfer here as well, but the key change here is going to be the lower section. I love how they just implemented a simplified design, but as I said before, simple doesn't necessarily have to mean boring. Simple can still have a clear identity and be interesting to analyze and look at, and I do think this is what's going on here with the new RSQ8, because it's very simple, very squared off, but it still looks very much Audi. Instead of having a separation like we have in the late 90s, early 2000s here with a bumper and a grille up top, and then you have the vents down here at the bottom. Now it feels like the grille and the lower section intakes have sort of mated and morphed into each other. You can see how the grille sticks all the way down here into almost the lower section of the front end. I do think it looks great. We also have a new feature here. You can see that we had this gloss plastic piece in the 2024 model year, which housed some sort of sensor here. I do think this new integration looks so much better integrated, and it feels more fluid to have this be part of the actual framing and border of the grille, and have the same location for the sensor, but have it be better integrated than what we have up here. New headlights as well. These can be configurable, as we talked about. We also have some nice line flow up on the hood that then has a connection to what's going on in the front end grille, because it connects to the very corner up here of the front end. So overall, the front end changes look great. Let's have a look at the side view. Now, this being more of a proper facelift, there is not a lot of changes happening in the side. I've always been a fan of this design. As you know, I'm not a, I've never been interested in SUV coupes. But this being the SUV coupe of Audi, I do think this is one of the better looking SUV coupes, because it doesn't feel like it's front heavy. And that is always the problem I have with SUV coupes, because they're based on a SUV, of an SUV, which has a lot of mass in this area, almost like a lifted wagon. Then when you remove this area, it becomes very weak looking in the rear, and that is the reason why most of them looks very front heavy. I think the GLE is a good example of this, and also the Volkswagen Atlas Sport Cross, or whatever that's called. The coupe SUV of the Atlas has a very front heavy feel to it, because it wasn't designed originally to be an SUV coupe. But looking at the new one here, we have the same line flow in the beautiful body here, 2 muscles over the both axles. We have this line at the bottom cutting in and have a clear connection to the bumper in the rear end. We also have these new forged wheels. These are definitely the wheels I want to go with, even though I probably prefer the design of the 2024 model year here with some silver in it. Just black everything out like this seems to be the trend right now, as you know, and I'm not a fan of completely blacked out wheels, even though these are more maybe charcoal or something like that. Now, looking at the rear end before we have a look at the interior, there are a couple of changes here to the rear as well, and one thing that is interesting here is we have a proper Lamborghini line here, and that is this line right here. I'm not sure if this is functional or not, but this is typical Lamborghini Urus air vent right underneath the taillights. The rear diffuser seems to be maybe exactly the same as before. It looks like we have a new reflector light right here in the middle, and that seems to be pretty much the only change for the diffuser as far as I can see. The biggest change is going to happen internally in the taillights. And the thing about the old one here, the 2024 model year, or the Q8 in general when it first came out, I thought the taillight looked pretty static because we have a very thin LED bar right here with these very symmetrical looking, or like there's no dynamic movement in the taillights. They look pretty static to me in relation to what's going on in the beautiful rest of the body here with all these beautiful lines, and then you have the very static graphics. I'm glad that they switched that up, because looking at the new 2025 here, you can see that this is all I want to see. This is a very, very small change to the graphics of the taillight, but that's all I need, because this is adding dynamic movement in this design. Look at this. Look at the old one here, and look at the thickness of this LED going right here at the very end. And now look at the new one. This is great. This is cool design, adding some different thickness. It's thicker up top, and then it goes thinner as we go further down. This is all I want to see. This totally changes the entire perception I have of the rear end graphics. It's not static anymore, and that all comes down to 1 or maybe 2 inches of extra thickness in the very end point of the LEDs. Completely transforms this design and make it a lot more interesting for me to look at, and a lot more dynamic as well. We still have the Lamborghini line here. Let's see if, I don't think this is functional, I might be wrong there. But overall, the rear end just looks planted, it looks beefy, it looks like a proper beast, this thing. And again, one of the best looking SUV coupes out there. Last but not least, this interior. As I said, I've always been a fan of Audi's new interiors that they have. I hope they're not gonna move into full screen BMW style, iDrive 9 style. I've seen that on some the Q9 interior, which is coming out soon, is going to have a big screen. Don't move into that area. Don't be tempted by all these other manufacturers putting TVs on the dash. Keep your classy layout here. We have the integration of the gauge cluster here. We have a nice integration of the screen. It doesn't stick up like we have on some other older Audi models. We have a screen up here instead. It feels very nicely integrated in between these lines here. I don't like this gloss black, as we talked about. It's just too, I don't know, it doesn't feel like it suits this type of interior to have all this gloss black in here. And what I do love about Audi is as well, if you're not gonna have the physical dials and switches for the climate control settings, at least make it clearly visible and easy access for the climate settings. And that is what Audi has done here, because this is a completely separated screen that sits away, separated from the main infotainment screen up here. And this is always static. So this is the only job for this screen down here, is to show, as you can see, is to show the climate control settings. And that works out for me, even though I do wish we still had the physical knobs and buttons for it. This is sort of the best compromise in my opinion. You have a separated screen for those features. Overall, a beautiful looking interior here, very classy. Again, we have the gloss black. I do believe this is gloss black as well. And I think I read that you can have this being carbon fiber for the RS Q8 performance model. If not, that definitely should be an option. If you're paying $140,000 for a very high performance SUV, you want to have a lot of carbon fiber, both of the exterior and also in the interior. We have a new steering wheel here with this suede wrapped steering wheel, looking very comfy. and very nicely designed as well, with some buttons here on each spoke, and we have the third spoke down here with the RS logo. Personally, I really like this specific spec that we have here with this very nice and classy burgundy style for the seats. Final thoughts on the RS Q8. I do think it's a great update. I'm glad to see that Audi is dialing back this sort of overstyling that I thought they had for a couple of years. From 5 years moving up to 2024. It got a little complex in the front end. I'm glad that they're trying to simplify it and maybe take some inspiration from some older models and just interpret them in a new modern way. And that is what I think the Audi RS Q8 sort of represents, specifically in the front and lower section of the car.